What's up, NDL? Season 34, right around the corner, less than 12, well, about 15 hours to go until it opens. It opens tomorrow. I know that much. So we're excited. Everyone's excited. The optimism around the league is good. I think I had a meme posting about that, everyone being excited, and then the bus with Ralph and the Simpsons. I'm in danger after block one. Realism hits, but it's a fun journey, a journey that all of us are going to be on. So we're excited. We're excited to talk about the beginning of the season in the G5. Vic, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's NDL Eve for those who celebrate it. NDL Eve, ladies and gentlemen. We are right on the cusp of a new season, and everybody's excited because everybody is O.
For now. Yeah, it should definitely be a fun season. They all are. Everyone, like I said, everyone has their own journey for each individual season, but I think this is going to be a fun one. A long layoff, it feels like, and everyone's chomping at the bit to get back out on the field. So we're going to see how things are going to go for everyone. One note that I do want to make, we do have an addition to the cast that will be starting next week. It's my fault that it's not this week. Doc at Oregon State will be joining me and Vic going forward for the Outliers. So it'll be a threesome from here on out. Excited to have him on. I just need to probably communicate that a bit more instead of waiting to the last minute. So that's on me. I take ownership of that. That's my fault.
It'll be it'll be an enjoy to have him on, hear his opinions, and I know that last block is going to be quite interesting because of a Week 13 matchup.
Uh, well, can look forward to that. But I guess before we actually talk about season 34, the games and what we see, we probably should talk about the draft because we didn't have the opportunity to do that. We talked about stuff leading up to the draft and some predictions on a couple of things, but we didn't actually talk about the draft itself. So one thing that was surprising to me, a couple of notes that I have here is that the last P4 team was taken at pick 63. That was Syracuse. So with 108 picks in the draft plus a few spots assigned after the fact, that's a lot of G5 teams. So basically, the majority of day two was all G5 as expected. And then going to day one, in the top 30, there were three G5 teams taken. You had James Madison, San Jose State, and then at pick 14, Dub going to Air Force. So Air Force and the Mountain West going in the top 15. So, Vic, I've got two questions to pose to you. You can answer in whichever order you prefer. One is, which coach do you think got a gem late in the draft? And second, which coach do you think is the best fit with his new team? And obviously, we're talking G5.
Best fit with new team. Best fit with new team would be Andy and Buffalo. I think that combination of the sneaky speed that Buffalo has with Andy's style, I think that will mesh well together. So I'm definitely on the lookout for him in the Mac. And what was the other question?
The other question was, which coach do you think got a gem late in the draft?
Late in the draft. I think that AU Tiger at Texas State got a gem. I believe with that offense, he's a highly productive offensive player. He's coming from Vandy, and he had that offense producing numbers. So I feel like he's going to produce numbers with Texas State.
Okay. Well, we're gonna share one answer. Actually, we do share both, but I have a backup prepared for one question. I'm gonna 100% co-sign with you on the best fit being Andy. With his with his offensive scheme, offensive the skills, the play calling on that side of the ball, I think Buffalo's a perfect fit for him. And I'll be very curious to see how he does in the MAC. I don't have schedules in front of me, so I don't know if he plays against Chip, but I know everyone that is on his schedule in the MAC better have that circle and better be ready. That defense is going to get a lot of cardio in that game. So that is going to be, I think, honestly, the best fit of anyone that drafted in the G5. I expect him to have a good
Definitely.
season. Now, in terms of getting a gem late, I also wanted to agree with you on Texas State. I actually had them on my draft board. I believe they were fourth. Well, they might have been third, but they were in my top five for sure. And they've got some speed on offense, and in a conference where you don't have to necessarily worry about that as much on the defensive side of the ball. It's I think the thing that people forget sometimes is it's not just how fast your players are on offense, it's what the defense has to do to try to stop it. If you don't have speed and you're facing speed, the inclination is to sit in zone and keep everything in front of you. And if your offensive line can hold, that speed is going to thin out those zones and you're just going to be able to pick apart a defense. So it's going to force people to be aggressive and blitz. And those big chunk plays are definitely going to be there. So in the Sun Belt, I think that is a good fit. But for the sakes of having some other team mentioned, I don't want to fully agree with you 100%. I do like Big Red going to Southern Miss. I think that, man, the start that he had last season was really rough. Losing one score games are frustrating because if you lose a game by 20, 21, you're probably like, I messed this up, I messed that up. Kind of get over it kind of fast. But when you lose by three, by two, by five, and every game is coming down to the last drive, it'll drive you nuts because you're trying to figure out why I lost or why you lost. And there's tons of things that come to mind in a close game versus the blowout. So I think I didn't think they would be available at that point. I thought someone would take them since they're one of the better teams in that conference. But I think the personnel is a good matchup for him, and I expect him to get off to a better start this season.
I do like Big Red. I do like Big Red, like him as a personality and as a player as well. I think switching it up and going to his new team, I believe he's going to have a fresh start. It's all about his start. If he can start well, then he's going to be able to finish well. Because he always finishes well, but it's all about that block one and block two for him.
Yeah, conference play has been pretty solid for him. It's just getting there. I won't even say with confidence because he's a pretty confident dude. It's just getting there in a good situation. We'll say that.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I'm gonna move one bit up before we actually. Well, I guess it makes sense to start with the conferences first and go into that. We can talk about conference previews. We got technically five, but we'll have a plus one here. Start with the All American. So Jokers will be returning to Memphis to defend his crown. You've got Pirate Flag joining up. He is at his alma mater, I believe it is, at East Carolina. A nice little
Yes.
video that he put together for the draft. That was pretty cool. Would have really sucked if someone picked it. I wanted to ask him if he had a backup video for other teams just in case. But glad that he got the team that he wanted. You got a couple of returning coaches. You've got Ice at Navy, Drew Baca at North Texas, and you've got some new coaches in the conference. Jordan taking over South Florida, and Buckeye taking over UAB. So what do you think of the landscape of the American Athletic, and who do you have pegged in the conference championship game?
It's always going to be a surprise in the American. It always is. It seems like it's always going to be a surprise from Jumper in 32 to Ryan, Coach Ryan in season 33 with Tulsa. It's always going to be a surprise. Buckeye may be that surprise, but time will tell. But I'm going kind of going chalk here. I'm going with the two best players in the American. That's Jokers and Pirate Flag. I think they're gonna meet up in the conference championship, and that's gonna be a little clash of styles, but not in a traditional sense. Both teams want to get out fast as far as offensively, and then try to pair up a couple stops in the second half to complete and seal the victory. So it'll be interesting to see them go against each other and see who wins. What about you? Who do you have in the conference championship?
Feel like we're agreeing a lot so far. I've got the same matchup. I think the thing that stands out to me for Pirate Flag is it's a school that he knows well, roster wise. So like we think of guys like Chip, guys like Dave at UConn, they're going to get the best out of those teams because they know them so well. And the big difference for me is with Nevada last season, they were just slow. And I mean like slow, slow. So this is a huge upgrade in terms of speed. I think it's a better fit for Pirate Flag scheme for what we saw in seasons past with Old Dominion and with Memphis. Until someone knocks him off, why would I not? Why would I not go, follow him? He played really well last season. I thought that, Ryan Collins did really well with Tulsa, and Memphis just Joker's offense is definitely a very difficult thing to slow down. And I'm imagining probably a little bit more with some of the team talent in that conference. But I think that they're on a collision course. I would say probably my sleeper pick would be South Florida and Coach Jordan. His offense has been pretty solid too since he's been in the NDL. But if I had to pick between him and Pirate Flag, I would go with Pirate Flag. So that's the matchup I have in the AAC. Oh, we agree.
I- I'm gonna go with Jokers. He hadn't let me down yet. He hasn't let me down. I'm very confident. Played him a few times. Played him in the bowl game last year. Everybody saw how that went. Don't need to go over that again. Um, I feel the most confident in him when it comes to a big game matchup, like across the board. No matter if he was at Tennessee, Memphis, Sam Houston, South Florida, wherever. I feel confident that he's going to get the victory in a big game matchup. And if it comes down to them two in the conference championship, my odds and my money is on Jokers every single time. I will say this: watch out for Coach Lone at UTSA. That, as I talked about before and earlier, that may be the surprise.
Okay. I like that pick. We'll go jump to the next conference, Conference USA. So 12 teams,
Which
half of them are new, like not even new to the conference. Well, first of all, let me take a step back. No one came back to Conference USA.
not a soul.
It's the only conference in the G5 that everyone said, thank you for letting me coach here. I'm running away. The call lost connection, whatever it was, everyone moved on. So of the 12 teams that joined the season, six of them are brand new to the NDL. So this is the MAC from a couple of seasons ago where you have a bunch of new guys and a handful of vets. And then the one thing that did stand out to me is Liberty. We kind of talked about them and their high win goal, the expectation that they have that might scare off some coaches. But Sudden Blue said, you know what? I like this situation. I'll take on the challenge. So they are on paper, the clear favorites in terms of team talent in Conference USA. So I know Vic, before we get to our picks for the conference championship game, you had a question you wanted to ask. So go ahead, sir.
Definitely. Definitely. That you summed everything up. I love how you broke it down. New coaches, Liberty. Forget all that. This is your conference now. How do you feel about playing all of these new coaches?
Oh, really putting me on the spot there. It's different because if I look at my schedule, of those six guys that are new, I've got five of them. So it's always an interesting experience playing against someone for the first time anyway, but someone that's brand new to the league because I used to be in that situation, and I remember after my games, and I'd be the first season, I believe I had Florida International, and I was so nervous every time I played a game. I believe every game that season was against a vet, season eight. So people that have been, I want to say, had been around for at least four seasons. So I'm, messaging after game. Did I do anything wrong? Do you have any feedback for me? Like I was super nervous. I don't know how it'll be for these new guys. I just would hope for a couple of things. One, everyone needs to do this anyway, but especially people that are newer to the league, definitely take a look at the rules, make sure that they are, I don't even want to say fresh in your mind, but just give them a good look over so you have an understanding of, how things are going here. I know they've had players had to have been vetted by playing scrims, but now the games are counting your coach scores, all that stuff. So make sure that you're aware of the rules. The fourth down rule probably is the first that comes to mind in specifics, because I know that's one way that things can go sideways really fast. But follow the rules and definitely reach out for feedback. That would be my advice. Win or lose, just touch base with the other coach. Not even so much for coach scores. I know D Kane mentioned that a couple of episodes ago, but more so just for, hey, you're new to the league. If there's anything that I can offer you or that another vet can offer you, at least just to take under consideration going forward. We're here to help. We're not trying to make it harder on anyone. We want you guys to fit in and we want you to enjoy it here. So that'd probably be my piece of advice.
I echo those thoughts completely. Definitely get with a veteran. Definitely get with your conference commissioner. Definitely read the rules. Definitely do all three. It'll be in your best interest to do all three of those things. So, who do you have, with all of that being said, who do you have in the conference championship of the CUSA?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. With half the league being new, and we always have that guy come in off the street that just jumps in guns ablazing, running stuff in the conference. This could be like if there's a chance, this is definitely the best chance because half of you got a 50% chance with six totally new players to the league, and I think two that are playing in their second season.
Yeah.
So I know this is going to sound like I'm trying to dodge the question, but I honestly don't know. I'll go
No,
with
that's fair.
Liberty
That's
because
actually
of
fair.
the team talent, and I know that Sutton is a solid coach for sure. But for that second spot, I honestly don't know because I just the odds are that we may have the next Jose in this conference. So I don't know which one of them it'll be.
So we're giving one of these guys a nickname, and he's gonna change his name to that name. All right. Um. No, that's fair. That's not dodging at all. People out there don't say that he's dodging. That's not dodging because it is a lot of unknown. It's really a lot of unknown when half the conference is unknown and they probably played a handful of games combined with, the cup games. So it's very hard to judge who's who and who's gonna do what. But the gambler in me gonna do it anyway. Um, I'm going to pick you, of course. Why wouldn't I? And I'm going to throw a dart, and the dart is gonna hit X cross X11 because I know that's a play somewhere in somebody's offensive playbook. And UTEP was a good team. Coach Vic Tim took that team to a bowl last season, so that team does have talent. And I feel like throwing a dart on the wall, he may surprise somebody.
Okay.
Got to change his name to an Audible Omaha. There we go.
It'd definitely be fun to watch. Maybe a little closer for me since I would be, in the fire, but it's always interesting to see new coaches in their first couple of seasons to see how they do. And especially for a lot of people, I feel like the average person that plays college football is probably playing either with a good team or they're rebuilding and they rebuild until they're a good team in a dynasty. So this is a different experience playing with the half of the teams that you never really see in your college football
Mhm.
experience. So it's a different game when you're playing with the mid majors versus, the P4 versus P4.
All right, next we got the Pac 2 plus one. The plus one is Dave at UConn. And we got the Pac 2, which is our fellow pod mate Doc at Oregon State and the host of NDL Game Day, Tim, with Washington State. How do you think those three teams are going to fare this season?
Oh, I haven't looked at schedules fully, aka the pack, because there's something that really jumped out to me with UConn's schedule that we'll talk about later. But I do think that Washington State for sure will finish in the top 25. Oregon, I see Doc making a bowl game. Right? Oregon's a tough matchup. But outside of that, he's also playing Dave in week 12. He's playing you in week 13, and then we have the, I guess, championship game in week 14 against Washington State.
Yeah,
He's
it's
got an
it,
interesting schedule. He's got SCSU on there. He's got Kentucky on there, the Wildcats, and UCLA. So nice mix of power and G5s. I definitely see him with a bowl. Washington State, looking at their schedule, he's got NC State. So based off of what we saw last season, that should be a very interesting game. The Apple Cup Drewski over at Washington and mid majors
hey,
most of the way, minus the family game in week 13 against Wake Forest.
I got some issue with that. I got an issue with that. You could have moved that family game to week one, sir. Next time I send you a request, accept that. Accept that. Please accept that. You want a challenge? Accept it next time. But overall, his schedule is good though. He does have Tar UNC Hill with Colorado State. In week three has the Apple Cup, as you said. Has homie week six,
Yeah, homie's
and
got
then
a
has
conference with
Vic
Kentucky.
Tim in week nine. those are two games I do have circled for him. Is those two games? Those two games are very, very important for him to win. If he wants to break through the CFP, those two games are must win for him because he's been at the top of the glass ceiling, but just can't break through. And winning those two games for sure, will break him through.
Yeah, should be interesting. Speaking of interesting, UConn's schedule is pretty interesting. So last
Yes.
season, remember their game against NC State got played at the end, and NC State was able to win. It was a close game, but the Wolfpack were at home. This time, UConn will be the home team, and they're playing Block 1. So I assume that NC State will be ranked. So a ranked game immediately to kick off the campaign. And then down the road, also, you've got Virginia Tech on the road. Chase plays great defense, a long time bet in the league. So that should be a fun matchup against Dave's rushing attack. Almost at the end, Block 6, Central Michigan and the Chip.
Mm.
So that's going to be a fun matchup. I suspect that that's probably going to be a game of the week option when that comes up in week 6, maybe even a triple B game. We'll have to see. So I'm really curious to see how that NC State game is going to be important. Obviously, finishing strong against Doc and Central Michigan, both will be at home. I'm really curious to see how UConn does, but full picture, no big picture, I see UConn and Washington State finishing in the top 25, and then I believe that Oregon State will be in a bowl game. So all winning seasons.
I see Washington State being ranked at the end of the season. I see UConn close to being ranked. It just depends on, his schedule and how he does with it, being with homie being first. And I see Doc being bowl eligible as well. So we kind of agree on everything. I did.
It's the
I was trying to dress it up like we wasn't fully agreeing, but I failed.
what can we say? It's the positivity of the season starting.
True, 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 true.
Well, speaking of Chip, we can jump to the MAC next.
Now this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah. So we have four new coaches in the MAC. Northern Illinois is coached by, if I can pull up standings really quick, that is Gator Boy, who took over a team last season. So he is still technically in games played in his first season, but for all intents and purposes, his second season in the NDL. So again, another conference with a lot of new guys. Obviously, we've got Chip, the coach mascot, I guess we would say for the MAC. He's returning. He's looking to
He is
get
the
back.
Mac. He is the Mac. He is the Mac.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to throw you a curveball here when we get to the end of this section. But Chip obviously looking to get back into the conference championship game. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Andy taking over Buffalo. I don't think
Mm.
Andy would be mad at me if I said this because it wasn't with bad intent, but I can pull up a DM and the quote was, "You walked into a tough conference, deserve for stealing my Hilltoppers." So that lets you know Andy was looking at Western Kentucky, but he had his board ready. He opts to go to Buffalo, which is definitely not a bad situation at all. So before I ask the question, the bigger question is, who do you have in the conference championship game? Some tells me we're probably going to agree here too.
We are. I think it's gonna be Chip versus Andy, and that is a matchup. That's Now you talking about a BBB matchup. That is prime time action right there. That is game of the year quality right there.
And
No
I
matter who, what conference, I know we rep the G5. I know we're G5 all the way through and through. But no matter if it's SEC, Big Ten, ACC, I'm just talking about the coaches. That coach matchup is game of the year quality right there.
Yeah, Chip's ability to impact the game defensively with the chipstick, we'll call it. And then Andy, one of the better offensive schemes in the league. And the best part about it is we potentially could get it twice because I had to
Yes,
look. They do play in
they
block
do play
six.
each other. Yes, they do.
So Central Michigan, man, that block six is going to be very interesting. UConn one week and the other week against Buffalo, both on the road. And yeah, can agree with you. I have the same matchup. Chip's been in the conference championship the last couple seasons. He knows his
I got
team really well. It's hard to not have him in there. And then yeah, Andy at Buffalo is a perfect fit.
I got a question for you real quick because this is a conference that also has a surprise. We talked about the American always having a surprise. This conference always has a surprise as well. What team do you think is going to be a surprise team in this conference this season?
I'll actually guess on this one, and I'm gonna go with Western Michigan. Oh, we talked about this off camera or off no off the pod. They were the second team on my board, and
Yes, they
I
were.
there were a
You
couple
were
of things
close.
that push Western Kentucky over them for me. But Western Michigan has a very fast offense. They've got three receivers, I believe 93, 92, and 91 speed. One is over 6 feet tall. The other two are more like slot type guys. And then you have speed with Cole Cabana in the backfield. You've got a tight end and Blake Bosma, who's got 84 speed. So they have the capability of having a very, very explosive offense. And Chip just said that that coach is a winner in Andy's dynasty. So yeah, we all may be on the same page on that one. That is a good offense to walk into for a G5 because they've got speed. You could scheme stuff up. And again, when you have a lot of speedy guys defensively, your instinct is to sit back and zone. You'd be able to pick people apart if you can get in a groove offensively. But who you got, Vic? Same team or we going somewhere else this time?
No, we going somewhere different. Shout out to Coach Chop there with Western Michigan, and Cabana's gonna go boom boom in the backfield. If you know, you know. Um, I'm gonna go with Coach Six, the commissioner, the chairman of the board at Kent State. He's had some underwhelming seasons at Texas A&M. Texas A&M said, "Get your ass out." Kent State says, "Welcome in," and I feel like he's gonna bounce back with Kent State.
Okay. They've definitely bouncing back. Funny enough. That's what a lot of us are doing in the G5. Um, Andy from Georgia, me from FSU, and other coaches, other vet coaches around the league that either got told we don't want your services, or in my case, like, well, I don't think you really want my services, but I'm also not sure I want yours either, so we'll just mutually agree to part ways. Um, the reclamation projects around the G5 always fun to watch is trying to find a good situation and parlay that into a solid draft pick for the next season. So with that said, which team you got?
I
Well,
got the Mount Rushmore. I got Chip all the way through. I got Chip. Mount Rushmore of the G5. That is what he is. That is what he's going to continue to be. He's going to bounce back from that crushing loss last season in the conference championship. And he's going to bounce back this season and win the whole conference. And potentially be in the running for that group of five CFP spot.
I will agree on both parts. It's hard for me to pick against Andy, but I think this will be one of those instances of Chip getting. I don't know if Chip and Andy have played each other. I think if they did, it would have had to have been in a tournament. I don't think they played when Andy had Kennesaw State. But that regular season matchup, I think, would help for the conference championship. Getting a look at that offense, I'm sure Andy will try to scheme up a couple things differently in a rematch. But regardless of who wins the first game, I think it helps Chip more. And Chip says they played in a couple of scrimmages. So I'm gonna go with Central Michigan, which leads me to a question that I just kind of thought of. So I had a feeling we'd be talking about Chip a little bit here. We have talked about coaches that are so the G5 is interesting, is then you have it's a different world. P4 versus P4, speed, just the game just feels different if you've ever played a season in each. So my question to you, Vic, is we have a list of coaches. We're like, man, if that coach would jump to a top team, how would they do?
Mm.
I think Chip would be on that list. I know off the top of my head, I know we're talking, G5 in this podcast, but Rock is also at the top of the list. And there's a
Oh yeah.
couple others that I can think of too. But just specifically with Chip, how do you think he would fare if he got P14?
I'm going to do something that a lot of people don't do. I'm going to give Chip his flowers. Chip would be a elite coach if he had somebody like a LSU or a Texas or Ohio State, Oregon, stuff like that. He would be an elite coach. He would be, if not the top tier, the next tier under as far as coaches in the NDL. That's how well I think he would do with a top tier team.
It'd be real interesting to see because I just from watching his games with the hit stick is insanely ridiculous. It feels like he's always able to line them up, and he's had clearly had a lot of success with that. I know CG is listening on mute. He's probably cursing me right now for saying that after last season.
He
But
got Texas. He all right. He got Texas.
but defensively, like he plays really well, and I just can't imagine if he had a top tier team with more hit power, what that looks like. And then with his ability to run the ball, what that would look like with a team that has. And yeah, you're going to be playing against better defensive lines, but to have a better run game than what you're going to have with Central Michigan, I'd be really curious to see what type of season he'd be able to have with his running back. So yeah, it would be interesting to see it. He would definitely do really well. I think that it's hard to say that anyone is a lock outside of like the Jiggies and the Bucknuts, the Kennedys, but
I believe
I
he's a
would think
lock.
he'd be a lock for the CFP.
I, I believe he's a lock. I believe with top tier talent because you're consistently winning 10 to 11 games with a 74 overall team. You jump that 10 points to 84. I feel like he's a lock.
Yeah, there's a couple other coaches I would put on there too. Like looking at Tim with his offense at Washington State, Dave with UConn, Jokers.
Nope, not Tim. Nope, he ain't accept that challenge. Nope, not at all.
It's
Not at
it's
all.
really interesting though, because you see teams go from the G5 and have success, and then it's like they're almost like a fish out of water when they go to the P4. But I think there's certain fundamentals that you have to have that you can develop while you're playing in the G5 that translate well to the P4. I think one of them is discipline on defense. All those coaches I mentioned have them, and then offensively, they have something that they can bring and they can find a team or scheme it with the team to make it work. So I think those all those coaches would be successful. But I was just really curious on how you felt about Chip since we were talking about the map.
Like I said, had to give Chip his flowers. Not enough people do it. I'm going to do it, and that's how I feel. I can I can take that all the way to the bank with that with my statements that I said. He is a lock. He is a top tier coach if he were to be in that situation.
All right.
Next, we got the Mountain West. It is not the retirement committee anymore. Um, it's new. It's some new people in there. It was the first G5 conference to be filled, of course. Boise is looking to be the '90s Bulls and three-peat. We will see how that goes. Tutty with Fresno State, a sneaky, dangerous Fresno State. And my guy Dub, yes, I say it like that every single time because that is my guy. My guy Dub with Air Force surprising us all. That was definitely the surprise of the draft. Picking Air Force at 14.
Yeah, I'm
How
not gonna
did you,
lie. When I
yeah, go
heard
ahead.
that, I was like, wait, what? Huh?
I thought
Like
for
I
sure
had
he was
to
going back to Washington.
I think Tim did too. So yeah,
I
that
thought
was
for
a
sure.
surprise. A big surprise. Like, oh, okay. Didn't have that on my bingo card.
Um, what are your thoughts about this conference? Like who do you see being in the conference championship? Who do you see surprising anybody? How do you see this conference shaking out?
Well, it's hard not to say Boise. So 2 seasons ago, he had Ashton Genty, and we all saw the ridiculousness that that was. He wins his
Oh
first conference
God.
championship there. He loses Genty. He also lost, I believe it's Austin Bolt, the fastest receiver on his team, and was able to still find a way to make it work offensively with his scheme. So I would put him in the conference championship game. And it's funny you say that three-peat, going for the three-peat like the Bulls, as he is a Bulls fan because he's from, or he's dad's from Chicago. So
See,
all
I knew it was a
Chicago
reason why
teams,
I liked him. I knew it was a reason why I liked him. I'm a Bulls
but
fan too.
but all Chicago teams, but he likes the proper MLB team. He's a White Sox
Oh, he can go to hell with that.
fan.
Go Cubs, go around here.
So I'd have him in one spot. That second spot is interesting. And you bring up Fresno State, and I'm not gonna lie, Tutty at CU, Dion must have did something to those guys because it just did not go the way that I think well, definitely not the way he expected, but it was a struggle for him at CU. And I think this is going to be a nice landing spot for a bounce back. That Fresno State roster is not bad at all. And I think that this is step one towards season 35. He's going to have a successful season here, and part of it is going to be playing in the conference championship game. But I have to give a sleeper guy, and I think after getting a season under his belt with this year's game, I'm looking at him. I I just have a good feeling that Big Z is going to get things really going again with San Diego State and be in the picture. He was late, even with Nevada, when it looked like they were going to cruise into one of those spots. SSU faltered in a game late in the season that knocked him out of contention. I think this season that he's definitely going to make a really, really solid run. He'd be my sleeper pick to get in the conference championship game. What about you, sir?
Black Rain at UNLV and Big Z are always dangerous. Always dangerous. Shout out my guy Wobbles at New Mexico. Always. Shout out Jeff Daddy, Che Pono at Hawaii. But I'm going to go with Boise and Iraq against my guy Dub at Air Force. You don't pick you don't pick a team like that at 14 if you don't have something up your sleeve. I just feel like he has something up his sleeve with that offense or with the defense. It's something he saw in that team to make him go at 14. I'm going with Air Force. I'm not going with Fresno, or I'm not going with Liberty, or I'm not going with South Florida, or anything like that. I'm going to go with Air Force. Now I know it is some sentimental feeling because one of his family members is in the Air Force, and I know he's going to do well just for that family member. But you don't go into a draft and pick an Air Force that high unless you got something up your sleeve. So I'm gonna go Boise and Air Force. They do play in season. I think they're gonna have a rematch for the conference title, but I do got Iraq taking it off.
All right. I really hope that he's prepared with that option offense because I saw that roster. So that option,
I
uh,
think he got something up his sleeve. I really do, because it's like I know the family member and it has ties and emotional ties and stuff like that. But you gotta you gotta have a game plan if you're picking a team like that high. You got to.
totally agree. Totally agree. And then the last conference, the Sun Belt, the Fun Belt.
The Fun Belt.
So this is a little bit different from the norm. You only have one new coach this in this conference. D Nazi, um, he is the new coach joining the league. He is taking over the Warhawks at Louisiana Monroe. You have a returning face, one that I am very familiar with, Big Rye, his first season back. I think he came back last game cycle and then had to leave. He is back now. He's got South Alabama. You have Big Red jumping the division line. He was at Georgia Southern last
Mm.
season. This time he's at Southern Miss. And then your favorite in the conference, App State, Brady
Oh yeah.
Hayes. So that two-headed running attack or rushing attack
Oh yeah.
is back. Oh, how do you see this conference playing out?
it's it's App State versus everybody. That's how I feel. I said that in a pod, in our last pod actually. I said that, and I stand on that. I will continue to stand on that. I will give a certain prediction later on, but it's App State's conference to lose. Even if he doesn't do what I think he's capable of doing out of conference, the conference still runs through him. That two-headed monster is a serious, serious thing when it comes to the G5. It is a ultimate weapon because not only do you have one guy, usually you'll have one guy and you'll lean on that one guy on offense throughout the whole season. But when you got two, It's almost unstoppable in conference. So I have App State. I'm going to give it to ooh, Jesus. There's a lot of familiar names in the West Division. Ooh, you got Duvitt with Troy. Um, boy, I'm going to go with AU Tiger with Texas State. I'm going to go Texas State, App State in the conference title, but App State wins.
Okay. I will second the App State winning, because I definitely have them going to the title game. From the West Division, I think this is the season that Big Red puts it together to parlay for a nice spot in season 35.
He let me down so much. I almost said it. I almost went with him, but he let me down last season. He got to prove me. He got to prove you right this season.
I think Tuvin might take it out on me later for not picking him, but I feel confident that Red's going to put it together this season. Now, the thing is going to be the sleeper pick, because you would think I just I'm equally as confident you that App State is going to win the conference, but my sleeper pick is actually going to be in his division. One of the more interesting watches, if you've ever watched his games, would be Bruce Bagel. His games are
Oh
interesting because he can put up points
yeah.
like no other, but defensively, when you say 35 points should be enough, he says, hold my beer. He has blown multiple 30-point leads. Not Thankfully he didn't lose in all of those games, but leads are something that has been a struggle for him. And with that kind of offense, and he's gonna have a solid offense this season. It's just my worry, of course, is clearly has to be the defense, because even with him at BYU being able to build a lead, the holding has been the thing that's been causing him the problems. He can be a very scary team if he gets that offense going. You're just hoping from his perspective that defensively he'll figure things out for this season, or that the coaches that he's facing will panic and make things a little bit easier on him. But he can be scary if that offense gets hot.
He can be another guy that is scary on offense. Is Coach Uraga? He was. I hope I'm saying that right. He was the coach at Houston for a long time, and he would put up 50-point games like it was nothing. I think either led or was in the top three in passing yards with his quarterback with Houston in the last game. He's gonna put up some numbers. That is a surprise team that I feel like could surprise a whole bunch of teams this season,
Yeah,
but
Coastal
not App
Carolina
State
had a good season last season, so taking over the reins of a good group of a good stable of skilled position players on offense for sure. Well, that takes care of all the conferences. So I got two questions for you, sir. One, which conference race are you most excited to watch? And which of the new guys do you think is best set up for a breakout season?
New guys as in new players or new guy as in new coach, new team.
Whichever you prefer, your choice.
New coach, new team is Andy. Uh New coach period is uh Mr. Omaha at UTEP because I picked him to be in the conference championship. X Cross, X Cross, X11, aka Omaha at UTEP. And the conference race that interests me the most is the MAC. Chip, Andy, Six, Football Kelly, maybe Coach Shop at Western Michigan. Should be a tight race. What about you?
Well, I think for me, the conference race, I think the Sun Belt is going to be the one that interests me. I do think App State is going to roll to one spot, but it's the other side, the West. I think the West is pretty evenly matched across the board. I know there's some difference in team talent with the teams, but in terms of coaches, I think there's a good set of coaches there, and I wouldn't be surprised with any of the seven coaches there who comes out of it. Well, six, because I don't know anything about D Nazi, but with the vets at least, I think it's a really good group of coaches. That division race should be really fun to watch. In terms of the other question, if I had to go with a vet, I'll try to be a little different and stick to stay away from Andy for this one. Um, so man, I think I would have to go with your boy 6 Feet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Chairman of the board.
I think Kent State has a win goal of two.
Oh,
So while like we are well aware of how bad Kent State is, because we were definitely having a conversation about that during draft
uh,
day.
oh, yeah. Oh yeah. I
But
remember that.
yeah, yeah, their win goal is two. Their projected win
Yes,
zero. So it has to be two. All he needs is two wins. Anything else he gets is icing on the cake. It's very clear what he's planning on doing. So you talk about a breakout season in the sense maybe he's not going to go 9-3 or 10-2, but make a bowl game, get to 6-6, and that turns into a very nice draft pick.
definitely.
So the goal is, just I guess personally to try to have finish 500 at least to make a bowl game. But man, that has the potential to turn into a very nice draft pick. If we're gonna go with someone new, and I'll try to say someone that I haven't said earlier. Hmm,
Just throw a dart on the dartboard like I did in the CUSA.
I'm gonna go with Bull in Conference USA. And the reason why is Missouri State had went 12-0 last season. No offense to Grimm. Those are some mighty tough shoes to follow.
That
Delaware
should have ended.
struggled last season as everyone would have expected them to. So hey, why not them? They can match Missouri State and say, hey, we're gonna make a bowl game and have a good season this year. I don't think 12-0, but I might be wrong. Who knows?
I'm gonna go with no. Um, go with no. So the rankings haven't came out yet. They'll come out on NDL game day tomorrow morning. Which one of these G5 teams between Boise, Washington State, UConn, Memphis, the Chips, and App State do you think will be ranked? Which one of those teams are most likely to be ranked?
I would say Boise for sure would be ranked because they have a 13 win season, Mountain West champs, and then you finish strong a win in a bowl game against Metro D, who won the MAC. I think for longevity, for sure, consistent success, Washington State and Central Michigan will both be ranked as well. Uh,
That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. Both of those teams.
um, I'm kind of torn on the others because I would like to think that Joker's would be ranked, but I don't think he will be. And then I think UConn and App State are kind of starting over. Um, I think one team, if I had to pick a team that's not one of the favorites from last season, I would say Buffalo with Andy as the coach. But outside of that, I'm not fully sure or confident. And I'll just give full disclosure. I turned in my poll. Um, of the G5 teams, I will admit I grade a little bit stricter. Boise has one of the best rosters in the G5, along with having the success last season. So I have them ranked. I have Washington State and Central Michigan in my top 30, but I didn't have them in the top 25. So I'll
I
flip it
did
to you.
my rankings as well. I'm going with Washington State and Central Michigan because they are the standard when it comes to the G5. Uh, as for I'm a little lenient at first. Would have I'll say I have App State in my top 30. I do feel like they're gonna jump up real quick. Like this is just one of those. Hey, we just waiting to see how you do out of conference real quick. But I do have the other five ranked
Okay.
that's on the list that we have here in our outline. Boise, Washington State, UConn, Memphis, and Central Michigan. They're all in the back half of the top 25, but they are all ranked. I feel like the mix of the list is the teams that are going to be ranked. Of course, there's going to be some other people that comes in, but I feel like we pretty much got it down with those teams there. So we are celebrating NDLE because we do celebrate it. Tomorrow's the start of season 34. Any of the block one matchups, which is week one and week two, catch your eye.
There's definitely a couple. One that jumped out to me, well, the obvious one, because I mentioned it earlier, was NC State at UConn. I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, they're playing block one. Okay. So we'll get to know right away what we can expect of UConn. I think what there's the one patch since they last played. So it may have some impact on the game. I'm not sure if there are any ratings changes for UConn. I'm sure there were for NC State, but this time the Wolfpack will be on the road. So after just seeing each other last month, how will things go in this matchup? If UConn could score an early win, maybe they're on. No, this is setting the stage for them having a really good season. We'll have to see how things go. Getting it in block one definitely will be very telling, I think. Um,
Yeah, well, for me, I'm looking at App State versus Arkansas.
mm,
Talking about contrast and styles. Oh my
very,
God.
very.
This is the contrast of styles. Coach Devin at Arkansas has rolled away from Northern Illinois to Pitt. I'm so glad he's gone from Pitt and to Arkansas. And he's going to roll that passing attack in the SEC. We all know how he fares with that passing attack. He can score with the best of them. But then there's Brady at App State with that run game. I think the run game is going to neutralize his passing attack. I think the run game will get Brady the lead early, and Devin may start to panic. And in the third, fourth quarter, the panic sets in, and that causes a turnover. Pressure, burst, pipes. And I feel like that's the type of situation that's going to happen in that game.
That's a really interesting one. Allow me to go to the NFL for a moment. This reminds me of back in the days of Randy Moss joining the NFL when it was still the NFC Central. So you had the Vikings against the Bucks. That Buccaneer offense was not explosive at all. We're giving the ball to Ward Dunn. We're giving the ball to Mike Allstott, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, versus the explosive Vikings offense with Moss and Chris Carter, Robert Smith. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Just keep them off the field. The fewer possessions that you can make the game, the more impactful mistakes can be. So yeah, definitely it'd be interesting to see if he can get that running tack going on the road against Arkansas. Another game that caught my eye, speaking of a coach we talked about earlier, Big Red hosting South Florida in week 2.
Oh, that
So
is a matchup I'm looking forward to right there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with Ohio, Jordan had a high-powered offense. Big Red was able to get things going in the second half of the season. So what does South Florida's offense look like is the question. But then the bigger question, and I think one that is going to be answered over the course of the season, can Big Red get off to a good start? He struggled in out of
That's
conference
that's the
play,
question.
and that's really going to dictate what kind of season he has. Because I expect him to play well in conference play. It's can he do it out of conference leading up to it?
That is the question. That is the question. The pressure is on him to start off good, and this is a game to judge yourself and see how good you and your team really are. Because Jordan's a very good coach, very good player. South Florida's a very good team. The roster update did treat them well. It'll be a tough matchup for sure. Uh, Maybe too close to call, but if I had to call it, I would go with Jordan in South Florida.
I
Another game, another game that a couple games that we're gonna spotlight real quick. 3 games we're gonna spotlight real quick is just SDSU with Big Z and South Alabama and Big Rye. Big Rye's first regular season game back, and Z trying to take back the Mountain West title. You got Sergeant Lingus and Glizzy, James Madison and Wade Flores. The total score over under is 91 and a half.
over.
Um, and we also have Buffalo versus North Texas. The spread in that game is Buffalo minus 23.
Yep, the debut of the Buffalo offense in the regular season. But there's you spotlighted those real quick, but there's one I'm really, really excited for. It's probably my favorite game in Block 1 in the G5. Mississippi State at
Oh,
Memphis. So I know it doesn't involve two G5 teams, but you have to understand we just talked about coaches that have that elite user ability. And I do think that Rock has that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you look at what he did last season, he, I don't mean any disrespect, but he had Bama dead to rights that I could not believe, as did most of the live chat, that he did not win that game. Some mistakes made at the end, but he played well for 26 of the 28 minutes. It was just 2 minutes that cost them the loss. And had El Jefe on the ropes, if not for a questionable fumble that we all were surprised that was not automatically reviewed, and he could not review it himself because it was under 2 minutes. He could have had El Jefe on the road. So Rock is really, really good. He's at Mississippi State and Memphis. Jokers, that high powered offense. This is going to be a very early test You're facing an SEC defense and you're facing one of the better defensive users in the league, top 10%. I am really anxious to see how this offense looks against Mississippi State. And man, a win here would be a feather in the cap for Memphis in the big picture.
I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I trust jokers in a big game situation. Um, Coach Rock is a very good defensive user. I do see Memphis pulling away. I believe it's going to be like a game winning field goal type of situation for Memphis. But I do see, because I just feel like with this game, it does favor offense a little bit more. And Memphis does have more of a high powered offense than Mississippi State. And it's no disrespect to Rock at all. He's a very good user, no disrespect at all. It's just the game does lean towards offense just a little bit more than it does defense. And I feel like Memphis, with the more high powered offense, is going to get the job done.
I hope they schedule that in the NDO Live so I know when it is. I definitely want to see this.
Another game, the last game that we're going to highlight here is a rematch of Block 1 for season 33, but with a new twist. We have Central Michigan versus Michigan State, but instead of CG being the coach, it's Coach Metro D. Do you think Chip will pull away with the upset once again against Michigan State?
I I do think so, but this is a very this there's layers to this matchup. So Chip is actively going to school at CMU, Dr. Bush,
Dr.
and
Bush.
you have Michigan State. I am probably wrong, but I think that he's also actively going for his doctorate at Michigan State. It's either that or he's an alum, but I'm pretty sure he's still going to school there. I mean, it's a 50-50 chance. But they're both very
Yeah.
familiar with the schools. They're both in Michigan. I like matchups like this when you have a favorite school against the favorite, the coaches are having their favorite school because it's not just your typical, okay, no, this is my starting receiver. He can do this. This is my starting safety. He can do this. You get into more of this guy's skill set allows me to use him like this. This backup skill set allows me to start him in these situations or use him in these formations. You get some of the deeper knowledge of a roster, and it makes for really exciting games. Thankfully, Michigan State doesn't have a like ridiculous home field advantage. They'll be home, but it'll be interesting. Metro D is kind of I look at him as a Brady Bill Patriots is they find ways to win, but it feels like there's no underlying reason why. Now I know Western Michigan had a fast offense, but it seems like every game really with him is its own adventure. It's not one player that you can rely on, like, okay, the running back's going to do it for 12 weeks. It's receiver A for 2 weeks. It's the third string receiver for a game. It's the two tight ends for another game. It's always someone different. And because of that, it's very unique playing against Metro D because you don't know what to expect. It just seems to find what works and attacking those areas of the field on both sides of the ball. So a very fun matchup. I do think Chip is going to get the win again, but I'm curious to see how this game plays out. I honestly think it's going to be a little more low scoring than people may think. What say you, sir?
Ah, not only is this is the ultimate layered matchup. Not only you have the layer of a rematch from last season's Block 1, Week 1 or Week 2, You have both guys representing their alma maters. One currently going, one maybe an alum or currently going. And you have a rematch of last season's MAC championship game
I forgot
as
all about that.
well.
Yes.
As well. So you have a whole bunch of layers in this matchup. Not only those two that you outlined, but the rematch of the rematch from the MAC championship game
I think
from
we can
last
definitely.
season.
I'm gonna up the spread by at least 3 points in Chip's favor for that, just for the run back. Definitely a little extra motivation there.
I think Chip is going to come away with the victory. I think it's going to be close, just like last season. Uh, Metro D does have a Bill Belichick, New England Patriots, Kansas City Chief type situation where the will to win, in a good way, is strong, and they just find a way to win. So I believe Chip is going to get the win. He's going to venture to 1-0, and like I said, I feel like between him and Brady and App State, they're definitely going to be competing for a CFP bid for the G5.
Yeah, with the closing thoughts, was assuming earlier that was something that you wanted to touch on. So, uh, it's all
Uh,
it's always rough early on because you don't have anything to go off of. But I I would say that because the hard thing is I'd have to. There's so many. It's seeing how the conferences play out in terms of strength to help or hurt someone's chance, because we just don't fully know the impact of that yet. But if I had to say, like going into the season, I would agree with you with Brady off of what he did last season, that rushing attack. We'll have to see how he does against Arkansas. Chip, he has this Michigan State game, and then he potentially has Buffalo twice. The flip side, you got Buffalo having potentially Chip twice. It could be really a really fun race for that spot. And then on the outside, Washington State and UConn. We know they have to get an at-large bid. How do their
mhm.
seasons play out, and how do things fall in the P4? Because you're going to need some of those mid-tier teams or lower tier teams to overachieve and knock off or give an extra loss to one of those big schools that you would already expect,
It,
hey, if they go 10-2, there should be a lock. Can they get a third loss? And then how do Washington State and UConn navigate their season? So it'll be interesting to see.
it, my closing thought is to piggyback off what you just said. Being on the committee last season, for for those two teams in particular, Washington State and UConn, because like we said, they have to have an at large. You the main conferences have to have a hierarchy. It can't be a jumbled up mess like it was last season. Because if it's a jumbled up mess, they're gonna be on the outside looking in again. We can't have the 3-way, 4-way. We got to go to analytics as tiebreaker. We can't do that in the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and SEC this season for those two teams to get an at-large bid. That can't happen. We got to have two established teams, and then there's everybody else. You can't have that one conference that could potentially have four, which in the Power Four, there are, some conferences that could potentially get three or four. For those two teams, you gotta root for that not to happen in order for them to sneak in.
Yeah, this will definitely be a conversation will revisit in, I'd say, probably about 3 weeks after we get a couple of blocks under our belt, so we can kind of see how the landscape is starting to shape out And now some teams have potentially played themselves out of a CFP spot, or in some cases are on track to lock in, assuming they take care of business from what we've seen the first couple of weeks. So it'll be fun. It'll definitely be a conversation that we'll be following. I'm sure everyone will. And with some of the big games in Block One, it'll be interesting to see if, even speaking on the P4, someone takes a big loss. Sure, you probably know
There,
you have that second one in your back pocket that is okay. It's just, man, once you get that first big loss, the pressure of I don't have that room for error now, or it's smaller. So how does that affect their ability playing going forward? Some coaches pressure, you say it bursts pipes. Some definitely can wilt under the pressure. We'll have to see how things play out. It's going to be fun to watch.
on the P4 side, if you ever watch the TV show Snowfall, it's definitely an Uncle Jerome situation happening. They are squabbling. Somebody is going to take a big loss. That is for sure. Between the first two blocks, there will be multiple Power Four teams taking a big loss because they are all scheduling each other. So maybe this could be the breakthrough for Washington State and UConn.
It'd be pretty cool to see one of them get in. I know that you have your segment, so I will cede the floor to you, sir.
Yes, we do have the ball nor fact of the week. Now, we don't have this anymore, but if the rules back then were the rules now, boy, this result of this season would would cause nuclear warfare. Warfare. I'm sorry, I almost messed that up. Nuclear warfare between those two teams. So back in 1957, that is a long way away. I know. Stay with me.
Yeah.
In 1957, there were two teams that split the national championship. Not only that, they voted for who's number one before the bowl game. So they crowned the number one team or national champion before the bowl games even happened.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
That is very crazy to think of what we have now compared to back then. They used to take, which is now the conference championship week, and vote on the last poll is that week. And they will vote number one, and bowl results did not matter. Whoever was number one was the national championship. They could have lost by 40 in the bowl. They still was national champion.
That
So, but that didn't happen this season. That didn't happen. So, do you want to take a guess of the conferences these two teams were in?
the Lord
They are still conference.
1957.
They're still conferences to this day.
I'm glad you said that because like if I don't even know like what conferences there could have been back then that were different.
Oh, it
Um,
was plenty. It was plenty, but they're still conferences to this day.
ACC and SEC.
Oh, you got one right. You don't want to guess the other. You got SEC right.
It can't be the Big 12 because it wasn't the Big 12 back then,
It
if I
was not.
remember
It
right.
was not. It was not. It was
Um,
split up. It was split up between
the Pac.
the Big Eight and Southwest Conference back then.
Okay. The Pac. We'll say Pac X. I don't know how many teams would have been in the conference back then.
It would have been Pac 8, I believe. And no, that's not it.
Uh, so then the Big X. Well, Jeez.
It was called the Big Ten back then.
Okay, yeah.
It
So
was
I'm
called
like,
the Big Ten.
I'm getting confusing myself.
It
Like,
was
so the
called
Big
the
12
Big
is the
Ten back
Big
then.
Eight.
Don't
So
worry,
then,
don't worry. The SEC was the SEC, and the Big Ten was the Big Ten back then.
gotcha.
Um, the only, like I said, the only differences is the ACC was transitioning from the Southern Conference. They used to be called the Southern Conference, and they made the transition to ACC. I think a year or two before 57. I may be wrong, I may be right. I have to check that. But and then it was the Pacific Coast Conference,
Hmm.
not even the Pac 8. Idaho is an original member of the Pac 12, by the way. Um
Wow.
so yes, it was a split national championship between a member of the SEC and a member of the Big Ten. Those two teams were Auburn and Ohio State.
Hmm.
They split the national championship. Both teams were undefeated. I believe Auburn was so dominant on defense they allowed less than 100 points all season.
Jeez, that's insane. Wow.
Um, they both were undefeated and untied. The AP poll voted Auburn number one. The coaches poll, and it was a UPI poll, voted Ohio State number one and Auburn number two. AP had Auburn and Ohio State 1-2.
So,
Now,
I
if
have
that
to ask
were
the question.
now if that were to happen today, if we were to get a split national champion from the Big Ten and the SEC, oh my God,
Oh, I have two questions. One, I really hope both teams won their bowl game.
yes, they did.
Okay, good. Because I'd be really awkward if one of them would have lost after that. And I guess it's not really a question. It's just more of a thing. As someone who grew up primarily watching pro sports and having, you know, watching basically as a kid NFL and a lot of NBA and seeing a playoff determine a championship, it was just such a weird concept for me when getting into college football and seeing that you could have a tie, a co-champ. Like, how does that work?
Because
I
they allowed the NCAA allowed the polls to really dominate. Um, no other sport really based rankings as a tool other than college football. College football was first. Then college basketball kind of, related, but they still have the tournament.
yeah,
And but college football is mainly based off rankings. And the fact that bowls were exhibition. People don't realize that bowls were truly exhibitions. It was for certain series. Goddamn. It was for certain cities to attract more tourism.
city revenue.
That's why the Rose Bowl is in LA. You got the Orange Bowl, Miami, Sugar, New Orleans, so forth and so forth.
Hmm.
Gator in Tampa and all that shit.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah,
oh,
it was something to boost those cities, and it was truly an exhibition because college football back then was more mainstream than the NFL. The NFL didn't take off. Allegedly, they said the 1958 championship game was what caused it. I don't think so. I think the rise of television in the 70s, 80s, and 90s caused the NFL to take over college football. But before then, college football was more mainstream and more known. than the NFL, especially the year I just named. And like I said, they allowed the polls to judge everything. And even back then, like I said, they voted on who was number one before the bowls even kicked off. So you were playing the national champion already. Yeah, Auburn didn't play in the bowl in '57. I'm sorry.
Man, that's that's interesting. That's very interesting.
But did win the national championship and was undefeated and untied. And like I said, their defense was electric. They gave up less than 100 points.
Yeah, that, I don't care who you're playing. That's very impressive. Whoa, that's interesting to learn. Like I know something about ties. I know we talked pre-pod, and I mean, as a Nebraska fan, at least I know my team's history. I know there's that. I know what happened because of Nebraska, but I really had never thought to look and see how many times it happened in the past before that. So, but to have that before the bowls even played, like even to me, that seems super crazy. But different times, different rules, I guess. So, speaking of rules, the last thought here: everyone enjoy your season. If you haven't voted in your polls and you're listening live, do your poll right now. Get your first set of points. They're a gimme. Get those knocked out. Make sure that you look over the rules. There's been some changes. It was announced in the announcement thread. So I've looked them over. Vic's looked them over. Just, some minor things to take a look at. Just a refresher. It never hurts. The scheduling thread should be posted. So make sure that you're contacting your opponent there. That's in the rules too. Make sure you're tagging your opponent every time that you reply there, and let's have a fun season. Let's try to pre-schedule those games in the NDL live so people know when you're playing they can tune in. And let's have a great season 34.
Yes, sir. Kickoff is tomorrow.
Game day will be live in the morning, and then after that, everything is open. Enjoy the games, whether you're on the sticks or watching on whatever screen of choice that you have.
Yes, sir. Another season is upon us.